Hey guys, I'm Luis Scott, owner of Eight Figure Firm Consultant, and I was on with the real Jason Duncan on the root of all success. And let me tell you, you don't want to miss this show. We're going to be talking about all things scale, how to take your firm from multiple seven figures to eight figures and beyond, and how to create a business that works for you instead of you working for it. So join us on this next episode.
Welcome to the root of all success with the real Jason Duncan. A podcast that explores how the world's most powerful entrepreneurs unlocked success and how their stories can help you do the same. A successful educator turned entrepreneur, Jason has built multi-million-dollar businesses that have been featured in Inc. magazine and Entrepreneur magazine. His life's mission now is helping entrepreneurs live what he calls #the exit lifestyle. Introducing TEDx speaker, mastermind leader, author, entrepreneur, cigar aficionado, motorcycle enthusiast, and host of the root of all success, the real Jason Duncan. The real Jason Duncan.
Welcome back to another episode. I am your host, the real Jason Duncan. You can call me Jason, you can call me JD, but I'm just glad that you're here. Thank you for being here. I got a great guest on the show today. Luis Scott is here, and he's an attorney turned consultant who helps attorneys build eight-figure law firms. Now, you might say, well, I'm not an attorney, so I can stop listening. No, because the principles of building a firm to eight figures are going to apply to your business, whether you're operating an ice cream shop, you're selling shoes, you're selling windows and siding. It doesn't matter what it is. There are certain principles in business and marketing and growth and scaling that are going to apply to everybody. So I want you to pay attention to this. And Luis is a great guy, comes from Atlanta. Actually comes from Puerto Rico via Atlanta now. So we're glad that he's here. And let me tell you a little bit about who he is. He spent years searching for a perfect law firm, consulting firm, because he was an attorney himself, and mostly in personal injury, also did some immigration, some other things like that. But he was looking for this firm to help, a consulting firm to help him grow his firm. And he couldn't find it because what he was finding that these people running these law firm consulting firms either weren't attorneys, didn't have any relevant experience, or were lawyers 80 years ago. And they didn't know what was up. So he decided to fill that void and create what he now has as his own consulting firm, Eight Figure Firm. You can look that up at the number 8figurefirm.com, where he's helping these companies, these law firms, build businesses. And what I know as a business consultant and coach myself is that lawyers, doctors, professionals like that, they're really good at their craft, but they sometimes really suck at building businesses. So they need people like Luis to come in and help. So we're going to be talking about that. He wrote the book, The Eight Figure Law Firm, and he has helped many law firms double their income in less than a year. And then his firm, eight figure firm consulting, he transformed that into a multi-seven figure company in under a year. So he obviously knows what he's doing. He's a sharp guy, and I want you to help me welcome him to the root of all success. Hey, Luis, glad you're here.
Thanks, Jason. I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to our talk.
So you came from Puerto Rico originally, and now you're in Atlanta. You've become a lawyer. So tell us a little bit about that journey. When did you come here? And like Puerto Rico is that place where it's kind of like America. It's kind of like the 51st state, but it's not there. So, and I know a fair number of people who are either from Puerto Rico or have moved there as an entrepreneur because the tax laws are so advantageous. But tell us a little bit about your journey to get here.
Yeah, it's funny because everyone knows about Puerto Rico, but it still seems like a land where nobody travels to that often. But it's a great place. I actually just got back from there last week. I spent the last 2 weeks out of the last 30 days there, and with vacationing and having some family time. But my dad joined the military when I was, I think, about 11 years old, and after a couple of stints in deployed, we finally made it to Georgia at 13. And so I came to Georgia at 13 because my dad had joined the military. He was a chaplain in the Army, and landed in Georgia, went to school 4 years in Georgia, graduated, and ended up going to college to play baseball, which seems so cliche considering I'm Puerto Rican. But I played second base, of course, the position that Puerto Ricans play, it seems like. But played second base, went to college, played baseball, and I thought I was going to go pro. My dad had played double A ball in Puerto Rico, and so I thought I had some sort of talent to do it. And unfortunately, just kept getting hurt, and I realized maybe that wasn't my space. I wasn't going to make it in the professional ranks, and I had a chance encounter with the judge, and that judge was the first person who really gave me the belief that I could be something amazing in the legal space. And I went to law school, and really the rest is history from there.
So baseball to law school. So where did you go to law school?
So I went to school here in Atlanta. It's called John Marshall Law School, and it's funny because I applied to several schools. I got accepted to several schools, but the one thing that sold me on this school was that the parking lot was attached to the building. And in Atlanta, I did not want to have to walk too far at night because I was going to be going to night school. And I was like, this parking lot is attached to the building, which means I have less risk of getting mugged at night. And that was the prevailing reason why I chose the school.
Listen, man, whatever the reason, you made it to the destination, right? It doesn't
That's
it
right.
doesn't matter why you chose it. So congratulations on getting through law school. I just hosted an event here in Nashville this past weekend, and I had a guy come in. His name is Edward Collins, who's an attorney, and we did a lot of talking about business structuring and that type of thing. And it really made me think about, man, I wished I'd have gone to law school. I did mock trial my senior year of high school and fell in love with the idea. And for a split second thought about, well, maybe that's what I'll pursue. And of course I obviously didn't, but now I'm thinking, man, what if I'm 49. Could I go back? Could I go back and could I do it? And I don't know. I don't know if I'd want to do it or not. So what was practicing law like for you? Did you enjoy it or what was it like?
So for me, I went to law school just to own a business. I knew I was going to be an entrepreneur. I had started a lot of businesses and failed. I do tell people that my successes were in law, whether it was a law firm or consulting. But I also had a barbershop. I also had a vitamin company. I also did an auction site. I did a political aggregator news site. Like I was trying all these things because I wanted to be an entrepreneur. But the reason I went to law school was I had an internship because of this judge, and I went to go work with this attorney who's now passed away. And I on the day that I went in there, he had a client who paid him I want to say like $2,500. And after he got the $2,500, he decided to leave for the day. And I said, "Where are you going?" And he said, "Well, my goal is to make $1,500 a day. I made $2,500, and so I'm going to go play golf." And that was the moment I realized I wanted to own a law firm. Like if you could just collect at 10 in the morning, $1,500. In my mind, here I am, I'm in college eating ramen soup, living in an apartment that costs $300. I thought $1,500 a day was insane, like to make that kind of money. And so I wanted to own a law firm. So I went to law school with that in mind. So being a lawyer for me was really hard because even though I clearly had the ability to do it, it wasn't my primary reason for going to law school. I loved the legal industry, but I didn't love the stress associated with being a lawyer. And I think people underestimate how stressful it is having somebody's life in your hands. And that was a very emotionally taxing time for me as a lawyer.
Well, I'm late to the game, but I'm watching Suits right now. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know the show Suits.
Of
It's been out
course.
for like a decade or whatever, but
Yeah.
I just found it within the last 6-8 months. I'm late in season 3, and
Mhm.
I'm not binging it, but I watch it every day, and I
Right.
don't know, like I'm just so enamored by it, and it's even more wants me to makes me want to become a lawyer because I'm watching Harvey and Mike and all these people doing this. Did you watch the show?
Yeah, that's not how it is in real life at all. Yeah,
Exactly. That's what we believe it to be real, but
yeah.
lawyers probably can't watch it like that. That would never happen. You can't do that.
It is a great show, and I do love watching it. And my wife and I we've watched it, and we've actually binged a lot of it. But there's you can't wrap up a case in 60 minutes, right? So a lot of times from the time the problem happens to the solution happens in one whole show, and it doesn't happen like that. It'd be awesome if it did, because man, you'd have a lot of wins every single day. But it
Yeah.
doesn't happen like that,
So
unfortunately.
so were you Harvey Specter or were you Lewis Litt?
Oh gosh, I would never be Louis Litt. No way, no way. But I see, I was probably not Harvey Specter either. I was more like, I, I would have been the owner, right? Like it's really hard to explain. Like when you're in a legal profession, because as a lawyer, as an owner, you have two functions. You have the practice of law, and then you have the business of law. And I really was more towards the business of law. Like I love doing the marketing every single day. I love doing the sales. I was doing sales calls, trying to get clients to or people to become clients. That's what I thrived in. I loved selling. And I tell people today, uh, I can teach anybody how to sell in the legal industry because I sold over 3,500 people on our services. So like I know what it takes to get someone to hire us. But that was really what I enjoyed doing. And in fact, I still enjoy doing it.
Yeah, so I'm thoroughly enjoying that show now, and it makes me even have this more of this romantic idea that I should go to law school. I think Vanderbilt here in Nashville has a program, or maybe it's Belmont. I don't know. It's one of the Nashville universities that has a law degree program that doesn't include the JD, so you don't sit for the bar. That's not the its intent. The
Interesting.
intent. I think was what you were saying is I want to know the law so that I can be a business owner,
Mm-hmm.
and what I've experienced from the good lawyers in my life is that they understand and have been advisors to me as an entrepreneur who's founded 12 companies. How do you do this structure wise? How do you do it the right way? So there is a lot of benefit to understanding that law, but so many lawyers, just like realtors or any other profession, and doctors for that matter, like
Mm-hmm.
they're just bad at their craft. They're just not very good.
Yeah.
There are good lawyers, bad lawyers. So your business now with eight figure firm is your job is to go in there and say, look, I'm going to show you how to take your little firm that you're charging X number of dollars an hour for your time and turn it into an eight figure firm. Why is that an important number for you? Is eight figure just a marketing ploy, or is there actually, hey, we want to get you to this eight figure double digit millions?
Yeah, so I mean, it's a little bit of both, right? It's a little bit of both, and the when you think about marketing, you think about SEO. I wanted to create a space for eight figures. So the whole story is this: only one in 667 companies that start on any given day actually become an eight-figure business, which is 10 million in revenue every single year. And so I wanted to do something special, and I was in Puerto Rico actually in February of 2020. I was with a friend. We were in a pool, and I was talking about how I wanted to be a consultant and I wanted to help firms get to seven figures. And he was like, no, 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 let's do nine figures. And I said, ooh, nine figures, that's 100 million. I don't think law firms are going to get to nine figures. And so we kind of took the average and got on eight figures. And I thought, surely somebody has thought about eight figures before. Like this can't be a new concept. But I went online and I went to GoDaddy, and eightfigurefirm.com was available. And I was like, whoa, I may be onto something here. There's no consultant in the business talking about eight figures or helping people get to eight figures. And so then I go and I look into the trademark, and there's nobody's trademarked it either. And I thought to myself, surely there's somebody in the marketplace that's doing this, and there wasn't. And so prior to 2020, you didn't really hear about building companies at eight figures. You heard about people helping others get to seven figures, but eight figures was just kind of a novel thing, and we know why. Only one in 667 companies get there. And so first it started off as like a marketing ploy. It was like, I want to help people get there, but this is going to be an easy thing to market because nobody had ever been talking about it. And then I realized that the impact that I could have if I help people reach eight figures was going to far exceed the impact of me representing clients in a law firm. In my law firm, we were representing 4,000 to 5,000 clients a year. But in this business, I could represent 100 lawyers who represent 3,000 lawyers. And that's now you're helping 30,000, 40,000. Last year alone, we helped 50,000 people nationwide because of the law firms that we work with. Not only that, they represented 3,000 employees. I mean, we're talking about major, major impact. And so that's the reason I chose Eight Figure Firm, because it was something unique. It was something special. It was something that was hard to achieve, but it was also going to create a massive impact in our communities. And now, if you look at any consulting marketing that you see, whether it's in the legal space or outside of the legal space, people are talking about this concept of eight figure. And I own the trademark, which is really cool to know that I was on the cutting edge of something like this.
So eight figure, I actually work with a marketing company that
Mm,
uses the name eight figure in their business name. And
yeah.
it's really it is a clever kind of concept.
Mhm,
And I am looking forward to turning my coaching company into an eight figure company. It's not there yet, but I'm looking forward to that. So I connect with that. I connect with
mm,
this idea of doing 10 million and plus, because you're right. Out of the entrepreneurs that I know and work with, very, very few ever make it past that. That doesn't mean they're not successful. And I want to make sure that we position this for the person driving their car right now, listening to the show, going, so
mm,
I'm not successful. I don't do 10 million. No, most businesses never hit a million. Like one in 667 reach 10 or more. I think that number is probably, similar to what reaches a million.
mhm,
Most businesses don't ever do that. So I think success can come in any number. But
mm,
here's what I know: if you're a law firm, it's all hours. Like, there's no cost of goods sold. I mean, there's shipping and receiving, and there's the cost
mm.
of paper and stuff. But so if you're charging, as most attorneys do, $300 to $700 an hour, getting to eight figures still takes a lot of hours, because you've got lower paid hours for paralegals and administration. So, how many firms, do you know this number? How many law firms are at eight figures and beyond in the US?
I'm not really sure how many are nation. I've tried to look this up, and it's really hard to find. What we know is that currently, of all businesses, there's 32 million businesses in the United States. Only 4% of the existing businesses today are at eight figures or more. So we're talking about a low percentage. So if you take that and you multiply that across the legal spectrum, I think there's 550,000 private law firms. 4% of that would be about 20,000 firms have actually reached eight figures in predictable revenue. What I love the most is I've helped 25 of those firms actually reach that number. And so in a matter of 4 years, we've taken 25 firms across that finish line. And so that's what I'm very proud of. And our goal is to get to 100 law firms that reach eight figures in predictable revenue.
So, if your math extrapolation is correct, there's 20,000 firms doing eight figures and more, and you've helped 25. Is that, is that 1%? Is that the right number? Or is it
I think
10?
it's about 1% of 1% is
Yeah.
probably
So,
what
so
yeah.
listen, but to have that market penetration this early is pretty good, right? Did you write the book first, or did you start the firm first, or did they happen at the same time?
So I started. So my history in the legal field is I had a firm. I became a managing partner of another firm. I was there 15 years. Then I left that firm, started my own firm. I took it to seven figures in the first year. Then I left that firm and joined with my old business partner, and we took that firm to 40 million in about 5 years. And so I've owned three firms. Two of them were seven figures, multiple seven figures. One of them was an eight figure firm. And through that process, I learned that there were some commonalities in what we were doing. We didn't realize it at the time. I didn't know what we were doing was duplicatable, but I started documenting because I'm a big writer, and so I started just documenting, like, what did we do? We did this, and then we did this, and we did this, and I wanted to be a consultant so bad, so I took this and I made it into a 9-piece framework, which is the 9 principles of exponential growth. And then I did a webinar, and in that webinar, there was a friend of mine who attended the webinar. I had 14 people. 8 of them were employees, 3 of them were vendors, 4 of them were like were law firms, but one of them was a friend. And after the webinar, about 3 months later, she sent me a message and said, "Would you be willing to consult me?" And I said, "Look, I have this framework. I don't know if it works for anybody else but me." She was a nonprofit lawyer in Orlando, Florida. "I can't really tell you if it's going to work for you, but I'd love to work with you." And really, that was the real big push, because when I started working with her after about, I think, 8 or 9 years in business, she was at 700,000 in revenue. The very next year, she did 2.4 million. The year after that, she did 4 million using our system. And I knew at that moment that this thing worked.
So are the 9 principles of exponential growth still part of your framework that you teach for the eight figure firm?
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
As an entrepreneur, I know that you have to deal with sales on a regular basis. I mean, every entrepreneur does. And if you aren't paying attention to sales as an entrepreneur, you're not going to be an entrepreneur for very long. But I've got a sponsor of this show called Dub that helps you bring the personal back to sales. If you want to figure out how to improve content creation, improve client trust, improve your sales process, decrease the sales cycle, because we all know time kills deals. If you want to increase client bookings and increase conversions, you need to take a look at Dub. There's a special offer for Dub for listeners to The Root of All Success at therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. And that's DUBB. What Dub does, I've been using this for years. I'm a huge fan, and I'm so honored that they're our primary sponsor of the podcast. But they have helped over 60,000 businesses around the world communicate better, to make sales easier, to make sales more personal. And Dub is built for growing teams. I mean, you can set up video emails, you can set up custom onboarding, you can do admin reporting, anything you need around video and sales and automation. Dub is there. You can try Dub now. Your conversions to sales are waiting. All you got to do is go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. And there you're going to get 2 weeks for free to try Dub. Plus, you're going to get 50% off your first 2 months of Dub. You can't beat that. So go check it out. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
There's been a lot of evolution on this framework. I've boiled it down to 3 pillars. The foundation, intention, transformation. So there's 3 pillars, and I have all 9 of them in there. We've expanded the 9 to 27, so it's the 999 plan. So you need a consultant to help you actually initiate it. It's funny because I wrote an entire book called The King of Growth, which is how to dominate your market and increase predictability for personal and financial freedom. And in that book, I talk about our entire marketing system, because there's 4 primary systems to what we teach. We teach, marketing, we teach operations, we teach the management or of the legal cases, and then we teach financial principles. And so those are the 4 things, and I've written on all those 4 things. And so it's expanded, it's evolved, but yes, the 9 principles are still part of the framework. But now we have so much anecdotal evidence with the 150 law firms that we've worked with. We can actually tell you, this is exactly what you have to do. Yes, this is the principle here, but this is how you do it, and this is how you're going to get the best result.
Well, let's peel back let's look under the hood a little bit. So
Okay.
Give me some of these pillars and or the principles of exponential growth that could apply to any business.
So I love talking about the foundational principle because it's the most boring principle. And recently I was listening to one of my older mentors or coaches that I had worked with, and he was talking about how if you want to excel in anything, you have to be committed to the monotony of the everyday, right? Every day is not going to be like super awesome and exciting and thrill seeking. It's monotonous, right? And Dr. Angela Duckworth has a book called Grit, and I extrapolated what she talked about in that book as to the definition of grit, and the way that I phrase it is grit is being able to do the monotonous every single day without losing enthusiasm. So like that's grit, like being able to do the monotonous over and over without losing enthusiasm. And so I love talking about the foundational pillar because it's so monotonous and most people don't want to do it. And the foundation has essentially 4 elements to it, but they're so critical to a business becoming successful. And it's vision, mission, core values, and service standards. That's the 4 elements. Now, a lot of people will hear this and go, "Oh my gosh, another vision, mission talk, another, this, that, and the other." And I will tell people, when I launched 8-Figure Firm Consulting, the first thing that I did was write the vision, mission, core values, and service standards of the business, and then wrote a business plan, a budget, wrote a marketing plan, and wrote a hiring plan. And 12 months later, we went from nothing. There was no company to $1.2 million in revenue in 12 months. And it was because of taking the time to set the foundation for the business. And now, obviously, the business has grown exponentially, but I think the foundation is the most critical piece. And most businesses operate without that foundation. And so their whole business is inconsistent. And the way you develop predictability is having a really good foundation.
So are you an advocate of business owners, entrepreneurs writing an actual business plan?
I'm a big advocate of it. I think that the business plan is not going to be perfect. It's going to fail. But think about it like this: if you had three options, you're going on a road trip, and option number one is you have no map whatsoever. Option number two is you have a decent map, but it's not great. And option number three is you have a perfect map. Which option would you choose? Well, most people would say the perfect map. Okay. But you can't get a perfect map until you've gotten a really bad map that you have gone on the journey and realized it was bad. And so the place you go before you have the perfect map, the perfect road plan, the perfect business plan is a okay business plan, but it would be totally irresponsible to go on a road trip with no plan. And so what happens is that like a lot of people, they go on their road trip of business with no plan because they say, I can't have a perfect plan. So why have no plan? Why have a plan at all? And my argument is because you can't have a perfect plan, it's better to have somewhat of a plan until you get to the perfect plan. And so I'm a big proponent of writing it down and making sure that you have something to go by.
So when you're consulting with law firms about how to build 8-figure firms, that's part of your foundation. Hey, we got to write a business plan for your law firm. Is that, am I understanding that correctly?
That'll be one of the things that we'll do is we'll write a business plan for them and we'll help them see how to use that business plan. One of the reasons that people are so anti-business plan is because they look at it as a document that they file in a filing cabinet and never look at. And everything that we do is with intentionality and it's alive. The document is a living document. You bring that business plan every single month, you're reviewing it. At the end of every quarter, I ask three things. What did you miss? Why did you miss? How do we fix it? And the way we look at that is we look at our plan and we go, the first quarter plan was to get this amount of leads, this amount of clients, this amount of revenue, this amount of sales, this amount of production, this amount of reviews. And we go down every single thing that they had planned to do. And we ask, what did we miss? Why did we miss it? What did we not execute on that caused us to miss it? And then how do we fix it? And now we develop the plan for the second quarter. And at the end of the quarter, we do the same thing again. What did we miss? Why did we miss? How do we fix it? And we keep doing that every single quarter. But it starts with the initial plan.
So give me your nuts and bolts instructions for the entrepreneur who's listening to the show, who doesn't have a business plan. They've been in business for a while, or the entrepreneur who's thinking about going into business hasn't done it yet. What are the must-dos? What's the structure for that first business plan?
I mean, I think that this is really industry specific and it depends on where you are. If you're already at 100,000 in revenue, it's going to be a little bit different than if you're just starting off. But the way I did it when I first launched the company was I asked myself, what is a reasonable, attainable revenue for year one? And I'm all about abundance mindset and I'm all about believing in the impossible and the big, hairy, audacious goal and all that stuff. And so I don't want to put any limitations on people. But generally speaking, you're not going to go from 0 to 100 million in year one, right? We can all accept that you're not going to go from 0 to 100 million in year one. So pick a number between 0 and 100 million that you want to hit. Then you're going to work backwards and you're going to say, how many clients do I need to have in order to hit that number? Let's just use 1 million because I do think 1 million in 12 months is very attainable. How many clients do I need to reach 1 million? And then you back it out. How much money do I need to spend in marketing to reach those amount of clients? And then you back it out. What kind of marketing do I need to do to reach those kind of clients? And then you just keep backing it out. So that's the way that I would start the business plan is what's my goal? How many clients do I need? What's going to be the revenue per client? How much money do I need to spend to do it? What is going to be my marketing channels that I'm going to work on? And then you keep going down the line. And then there's going to be other things in your business plan that I recommend, such as look at your competition. What are businesses similarly situated? If you're a restaurant and you're going to be selling Mexican food, you may want to examine the landscape of the Mexican restaurants in your area and ask, what are they doing better than you? Or what are they doing better than you were thinking about doing? And what are they doing worse than you? And I love Mexican food. There's a place here in Atlanta called Super Rica that I absolutely love. And if I was a Mexican restaurant and I wanted to compete at the highest level, this place has a 2-hour wait sometimes. I'm going to go look at what do they do? What do they have? What are the systems that they have in place? And then I'm going to build my plan like that. This is my competition. So I would say I'm building a Mexican restaurant. Super Rica is my competition. They have better website, better branding, better marketing, better staff, better training, better drinks. Okay, I need to make sure that I compete with those things. And that's how I would put together my plan.
So what are the biggest things that you see that these attorneys, these law firms are making that prevent them from reaching that 8 figures?
So the first thing is believing that just because you got to 7 figures, you can somehow duplicate that. And there's three phases of your business. 0 to 3 million is all about client acquisition. So if you're under 3 million in revenue, you should spend 100% of your time trying to get more clients, trying to get more sales. 3 to 8 million is all about people acquisition. So if you want to go from 3 million to 8 million, you have to be in the business of getting great people. And there was a way that it was described is that when you first start your business, you have a bunch of generalists. And then as you grow, you need specialists. So you may have had someone who was the receptionist and the salesperson and the legal assistant in the law firm context. And now you need an independent receptionist. You need an independent salesperson. You need an independent legal assistant as you grow. So from 3 to 8 million, it's people acquisition. And then from 8 and above, it's leadership. And so what happens with many firms is if they're stuck under 3 million, they never developed a predictable process for acquiring clients. That's what we find. If they're stuck in the 3 to 8 million range, they've never developed a good people strategy. We call that the people philosophy. They've never developed a people philosophy under which they're going to hire, fire, and acquire talent. And then if they're stuck between 8, 11 million around there, and they can't get past that, I have some firms that are like 10, 11, 10, 11 every year. They're 10, 11 is because they haven't focused on leadership acquisition and leadership development. So those are the things that hold people back generally in those individualized phases.
Dude, that is gold. So people should just rewind this and listen to that, because it doesn't matter if you're a law firm, if you're selling shoes, running an ice cream shop, or you're a consultant in another industry. That 1 to 3, 3 to 8, 8 to 10 mentality of what you just said is spot on. And you can look at this. I mean, listener, think about your life. Where are you at in your overall scheme of revenue? What have you achieved? Well, if you're sub 1 million to 300 or 3 million, it's just client acquisition. You've got to acquire more clients. I'm looking at my coaching firm right now. That is exactly where I am. I need to figure out this client acquisition strategy. Then if you're talking to somebody that's doing, say, 5 million or 6 million or somewhere around there, and they can't seem to break that next glass ceiling, they can't get through it. Well, it's because you haven't figured out how to acquire the right people, because you got to build systems and automations at that point.
Yep.
And then third is that idea of leadership, which I really like what you said there, is that idea of leadership. And what's interesting about this, Luis, is that parallels what I teach in my exit without exiting method, and this XOS method that I teach is these 7 stages. And I don't attach mine to revenue numbers necessarily, although there are indicators. That's gold, dude. People need to go back and listen to this, because what you just said, absolute gold. And you can get on any stage in America right now. And I know you want to do more speaking. So people listening that need speakers need to get you in, because it's not just about law firms. That content, that's golden, man. It's what everybody needs to hear.
And here's the thing. So I have a friend of mine who has a video production company, and he had this company for many years. He's not a lawyer, never been to law school. I've known him since high school. Many years, 5, 6, 7 years, he had a company. The company never made more than $50,000. He comes to me one day and he says, "Can you help me build my business? I know I'm not a lawyer. Can you help me build my business?" And I said, "Look, you don't need that much help. I can try to help you. You got to go out there and be top line revenue focused." That's the thing we talk to our 3 and under firms all the time. Top line revenue focus. When they're deviating and going, "I don't have a good lawyer, or I don't have a good receptionist, or I don't have," top line revenue focus. Does that have anything to do with top line? If it doesn't, we don't need to really focus on it. And so I start talking to this friend of mine, and I tell him, "Look, we're going to go top line revenue focus. We're going to ask ourselves, how do we develop business?" And he went laser focused. Grant Cardone talks about this in one of his books, where he says you have to become income obsessed. I love that. I love that terminology, income obsessed. And we went top line revenue focused, income obsessed. And in 1 year, he went from $50,000 to $500,000 in revenue in a video production company using this system. Because until you learn how to acquire clients, nothing else matters. And so you have to be super focused on client acquisition in those early years.
So you've been very successful, Luis, and you've built a good firms. Now you're building your own consulting firm, and you're helping law firms build high success rates. So if you had to narrow your success down to one key, what would that one key be that has unlocked success for you?
Perseverance. And that sounds a little cliche, but I think people give up too soon. And I love listening to other influencers. I heard Alex Hormozy say recently that only two things are going to happen when you start your business. You're either going to win or you're going to quit. And I think people just give up too soon. You have to persevere. It's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to be uh, always on the up. Profit's not always going to be good. There's going to be months where you may lose money, and you have to be willing to persevere during that time. So when I look back at my career, what has helped me and gotten me to where I am today is that no matter what was going on, I always persevered. And so I think that's the key.
I would agree, and it goes back to your Angela Duckworth's book, Grit. That is
Yes.
another word for grit is perseverance. Those are synonymous with one another. So, how would you, Luis, define the word success? Because it's different for everybody. What is your definition of that word?
Yeah, I mean, I think success for me is being successful in several F. There's several F words, and that is my faith, my family, my friends, and my finances. And so, if my faith is strong, if my family's intact, if I have strong relationships with friends, and the finances are where they need to be for me to live a successful life, then to me that means I'm a success. And so I'm always working on those F's in my life.
So, your father being a chaplain, did that influence those four F words, especially the faith?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I obviously grew up, going to church my whole life. That was kind of my thing. But yeah, he's probably the strongest faith man that I've ever met. And so for me, I've always wanted to emulate him. I grew up in an environment. I tell people all the time because we hear this daddy issue, mommy issue thing, and I tell people all the time I don't even know what that's like because I grew up with two of the most amazing parents. I have three siblings. All four of us think the exact same thing about our parents. We don't have any traumatic experiences growing up. All of the siblings are close. And so I want to emulate that. I want my family, I also have four kids. I want my family to be raised in an environment where they feel like their parents really set them up for success in life.
So your definition of success being built on these four F words, faith, family, friends, and finances, using that as your definition, do you consider yourself to be successful?
Um, Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing in one of those areas. I think when people look at me from the outside, they would unequivocally say you are absolutely a massive success. But I think what keeps me from saying that I am a success is that I'm always striving to be better. I'm always striving for a better relationship in my faith. I'm always striving to be a better husband and a better father. I'm always striving to be a better friend, and I'm always striving to create more predictability in my finances. But today, I feel like a success at least.
I love it. I love it. So let's now, as we kind of close things out, I want to give you the opportunity to put your advisor hat on. So as you're talking to the listeners, I want you to draw back on all your experiences as a lawyer, building successful firms, now building your consulting firm. What is one piece of advice that you want the entrepreneurs listening to the show that they must have? And you can't talk about perseverance because we already talked about that. So that's off the table. But besides that, what is your one piece of key advice for entrepreneurs?
The biggest piece of advice for an entrepreneur who is wanting to start off is to make sure that whatever you choose, it's something that you love. Because if you choose something that you don't love, if you're just chasing the money, when the going gets tough, you will quit. And so you want to make sure you have something that you're passionate about. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be you're passionate about creating a new waste management service, right? They pick up the trash. Maybe you're passionate about golf clubs. Maybe you do golf lessons and you start a golf, tutoring service. But one of the things that I learned from a mentor many years ago in my early 20s was if you love what you do, you can figure out a way to make money doing it. But if you don't love what you do, no one is going to want to pay you for it. And I think that has always been so true in my life. When I chased money by doing things I didn't love, they never worked out. But when I chased the things that I loved, the money just followed.
Beautiful, beautiful advice, man. Well, I want to let everybody know how to get in touch with you. So if you are interested in this concept that Luis is talking about, these pillars of foundation, these foundational pillars of growth, exponential growth. Um, Although he works specifically with law firms, remember there's crossover here. So go check him out. You can follow him on Instagram at Luis Scott Jr. for Junior, Luis Scott JR for Junior, and also on LinkedIn with the same handle, Luis Scott Jr. Go check him out. And if you're interested in looking his business up, go to 8-Figure Firm. And that's the number 8, figurefirm.com. He has the trademark. He got it. He's in front of the line. He figured it out. All right. Well, Luis, I'm going to give you the last word on the show today. Is there anything you want to say before I do my outro stuff that I do at the end of every show?
I would just say that life is a roller coaster, and there's going to be ups and there's going to be downs, but never give up in the downs, because the up is coming right around the corner.
Love it. Well, thanks for being on the show, Luis.
Thanks for having me.
All right, there you go. There's another successful entrepreneur who's built a successful business and now is in the business of helping other people build very successful businesses. I want to point out a couple of stats. I just want to recall these before we close out today. 1 in 667 businesses in the United States ever get to 8 figures, which is 10 million and above. Are you going to be one of those businesses? You can. If you put the right foundational pieces in place, you work with the right people, because what got you to where you are now is not going to get to where you want to go. So you've got to hire people, hire a coach, hire a firm. If you're at a law firm and you're looking for somebody to help you grow, look up 8-Figure Firm. If you're not a lawyer and you want to look up somebody else, go find people. That's what I do. I'm a business coach. I work with my clients all the time to grow revenue and get ready to sell their businesses. So you've got to employ other people. You got to bring people around. And he also said that 4% of existing businesses are at 8 figures. 4%. So if you look at that, at how, like, it's a small number. So if you're there, congrats. You've reached the pinnacle of what business success is in the United States as an entrepreneur. So congratulations. But if you're not there, you can get there. There is a path. There are structures and plans and procedures that can get you to where you want to go. And I want to say a big thanks to Luis for being on the show. It's been a pleasure getting to hear from him. I want you to go back and listen to his golden information about those 3 tiers, from 0 to 3, 3 to 8, and 8 to 10, because that applies to everybody. So thank you for listening to the show. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching us on YouTube. And I hope that you'll tune in again next week when I talk with yet another very successful entrepreneur about his or her journey to success. Until then, as always, I'm the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.